Rejected at checkout, a struggling mother with her baby receives an unexpected, life-changing gift. Sarah stood there, heart pounding, as she faced the checkout line at the grocery store. Her fingers trembled around the worn plastic card that seemed to symbolize not just her finances, but her dignity. After a grueling week of working 2 jobs, she finally felt a glimmer of hope, a chance to provide for her baby, even if it was just a few essential groceries. But as the cashier swiped her card, the dreaded response pulsed through her like ice-cold water: declined. The judgmental stares of fellow shoppers pierced her like arrows. A mother, eyes wide with disbelief, glanced at her toddler, as if to say, "What's wrong with her?" The vibrancy of the store faded into a haunting silence. Sarah felt swallowed by shame, her heart sinking as she fumbled through her wallet, desperately searching for the crumpled bills that might cover the cost of her meager groceries. Each passing second stretched into an eternity, her cheeks flushing with the heat of embarrassment. She could feel it, the weight of the world crashing down on her, shattering her attempts at self-sufficiency. Across the aisle, Tom, a decorated but disabled veteran, watched the scene unfold. The struggles etched on Sarah's face mirrored the battles he faced during his deployment. He knew what it felt like to be judged, to feel utterly small in a crowd. Moved by an unseen force, Tom couldn't just stand back. He stepped forward, breaking the suffocating silence around them. "It's okay," he said, his voice slicing through the tension. "I'll pay for her groceries." Suddenly, a wave of warmth enveloped Sarah, but alongside it came a torrent of fear. Could she truly accept help? What would people think? Still, gratitude bloomed in her heart, leading her to nod, tears brimming in her eyes. The tension in the air shifted. It felt as if a weight had lifted, a flicker of hope igniting in their small corner of the world. As the weeks passed, the connection between Sarah and Tom deepened. However, the challenges remained. While Sarah poured everything into her work, determined to be self-sufficient, her heart ached with the distance growing between her and her baby. The joy she once felt in holding her child was overshadowed by the daily grind. One evening, a confrontation with her mother brought buried truths to the surface. Sacrifice meant love, but was she sacrificing too much? Just when despair threatened to swallow her whole, small acts of kindness from neighbors who recognized her struggle began to pour in, like sunshine breaking through the clouds. Each gesture, be it a meal, a caring word, a shared laugh, rekindled her fighting spirit. The community that once judged her was slowly coming to see her strength. Yet, as she stood at this crossroads, doubts loomed large. Could she truly embrace the love around her without losing sight of herself? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Sarah pondered her next steps, uncertainty loomed large. Would she stay and accept the love she craved, or chase an uncertain future alone, forever wondering what might have been? The decision hung in the air, heavy with promise and potential, leaving her and the reader anxiously awaiting what comes next. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of Sarah's decisions felt heavier than ever. With each passing moment, she witnessed tiny changes in herself and the world around her. Her heart, once a fortress of fear and isolation, began to soften a little, allowing cracks of warmth and connection to seep in. One evening, as golden sunlight painted the walls of her small apartment, Sarah found herself sitting on the floor, surrounded by scattered toys and the remnants of dinner. Her baby, Lily, cooed softly, the sound a balm for her weary soul. The joy of motherhood had threatened to dim under the ashes of worry, but moments like these reminded her of the light she held in her arms. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Startled, Sarah jumped up, barely managing to tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She hesitated for a heartbeat, still caught in the webs of uncertainty. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door to find Tom standing there, holding 2 steaming containers of food. "What's this?" she asked, mouth curving into a smile she hadn't realized was missing. "Just stopping by with dinner," Tom said, his grin wide and genuine. "Thought you might like some company." Surprised by his thoughtfulness, Sarah's heart warmed. Could she really accept kindness without feeling indebted? Her inner critic buzzed, but as she looked into Tom's eyes, she found solace. He judging her. He was supporting her. They settled on the floor, eating together, sharing laughter and stories. Sarah felt an uncharacteristic lightness growing within her. Each time their eyes met, confidence flickered and grew, gradually replacing the loneliness she had felt for so long. "So," Tom said after a solitary moment of quiet, "how are you holding up?" She paused, scanning the room as if searching for the right words. "It's hard. I want to be there for Lily like I should be, but I can't shake this feeling that I'm failing her." Tom's expression softened. "You're not failing. You're doing everything you can, and then some. Everyone struggles. It doesn't make you any less of a mother." The words settled in her chest, creating a warmth that pushed back against the doubt. Maybe she had this. Maybe she did have the strength to embrace both the challenges and the support of her community. As they spoke, Sarah began to see the contours of a new path. She didn't need to be alone. She could lean on others and still hold on to her dreams of independence. The realization that open-heartedness could coexist with self-sufficiency started to take root. Just as the conversation shifted towards planning for the upcoming community potluck, a loud thud resonated from the kitchen. They both jumped, eyes wide, before bursting into laughter. "Guess my cooking isn't as appealing as I thought," Tom joked. With the evening lingering, they tidied up, but something deeper had changed. Sarah could see that she didn't just have a friend in Tom. She had an ally, someone who believed in her when she sometimes didn't believe in herself. Later, after Tom left, Sarah knelt beside Lily's crib, staring into the sleeping face of her child. The future felt uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, the uncertainty didn't scare her. She found unexpected companionship and support. But could she trust this brand new connection with Tom? As her eyelids grew heavy with the weight of the day, the question echoed in her mind, illuminating a path forward. She was ready to embrace the future, but what other surprises awaited her around the corner? The morning came too quickly, the warmth of the sun spilling through the window and stirring Sarah from her dreams. She blinked against the brightness, a sense of hope settling in her chest. Last night lingered in her thoughts, the laughter, the warmth, and most importantly, Tom's kindness. After a quick breakfast, filled with colorful cereal scattered across the table, she gathered her energy to step outside. Today was the day of the potluck, and anxiety buzzed beneath her excitement. She glanced at her reflection in the hallway mirror. Was the smile on her face genuine? It felt like a fragile thing, but it was there, supported by the realization that she wasn't alone anymore. Lily gurgled happily from her seat, and Sarah's heart lightened. "Ready for an adventure today?" she asked, tightening the straps of the baby carrier on her chest. Lily responded with a delighted squeal, her tiny fingers grasping at the air. Outside, the world greeted her with sounds of laughter and cheerful chatter, neighbors setting up tables adorned with homemade dishes. The park was alive with families, bringing a vibrant energy that made her pulse quicken. Each step toward the gathering felt like a leap into the unknown, balancing excitement with trepidation. As Sarah arrived, she spotted Tom already at the center of it all, helping another parent arrange food. He looked up and flashed a welcoming smile that cut through her nerves, anchoring her to the moment. There was something powerful about how he made her feel, as if she belonged. "Hey, you made it," Tom called, waving her over. "Just barely," she laughed, shrugging off the weight of the day with a smile. As they chatted about potluck contributions, Sarah was surprised by how many people approached them, part of the magic of community. Each interaction formed tiny threads that knit her more deeply into the fabric around her. Yet, some anxiety lingered as old worries clawed at the edges of her happiness. Just when she felt comfortable, a familiar figure emerged, a woman from her past, Karen, who had always been the embodiment of perfection. With perfectly styled hair and a smug smile, Karen's presence tightened the knot of insecurity in Sarah's stomach. "Look who decided to join us. I didn't think you had it in you," Karen said. Her voice dripped with condescension. Sarah's heart raced. Old feelings of inadequacy bubbled up, threatening to choke the new light she had begun to embrace. But Tom stepped forward, his protective instinct flaring. She has been doing great, actually. Better than anyone expects. The unwavering support in Tom's voice sent a wave of warmth through Sarah. Maybe she was stronger than she gave herself credit for. She straightened her spine and found her voice. Being a mother is challenging, but I've got good people around me now. I'm grateful for that. Karen frowned, doubt crossing her features, but Sarah stood unwavering, fueled by the kindness of those around her. She was more than someone else's judgment. As the potluck flourished, laughter bounced around, and it felt like a celebration of resilience. Sarah was starting to see the beauty in community, a supportive tapestry woven with stories and shared experiences. Before the evening wound down, Tom pulled her aside. "You were amazing," he said softly, sincerity filling his eyes. "I know it wasn't easy." "Thank you for having my back," she replied, her heart pounding, finally realizing how much she had wanted this connection. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting everything in shades of orange, she caught a glimpse of Karen speaking in hushed tones with others, glancing their way. Was she spreading doubt? The question settled like a stone in her stomach. Somehow, facing the truth about herself seemed more daunting than anything she had encountered so far. Could she show up for herself, for Lily, even in the face of that kind of energy? Suddenly, Sarah felt the weight of her own fears push against her newfound strength. Would she be able to rise above it all? The night was just beginning, and so was her fight. In that moment, she knew she had to confront her past, but the thought of what lay ahead sent a chill through her bones. Would she have the courage to face not just the community, but the shadows of her own doubts lurking behind her? The night air wrapped around Sarah like a barely there blanket as she stood on the edge of the gathering, the jubilance of the potluck fading into background noise. Tom lingered nearby, his presence a warm beacon, but the shadows of doubt whispered louder. She watched as Karen chatted away with others, their laughter mingling with the chirps of crickets, each sound twisting the knife of insecurity deeper. "What's wrong?" Tom asked, stepping closer, picking up on the confusion etched across her face. "Just old wounds. They don't quite heal, do they?" Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The memories of her past felt like chains binding her to the ground, anchoring her in fear. "But you're not that person anymore," Tom said, his eyes gentle yet firm. "You've come so far. Look at you, you have Lily and a community that cares. You belong here now." His words kindled something inside her, an ember of resolve, yet fear pooled in her stomach, mixed with a hint of hope. How could she allow herself to be that person again, when Karen's very existence reminded her of everything she had stumbled over? "I don't know," Sarah muttered, pulling at the fabric of her shirt, feeling a prickling anxiety. "Maybe I don't fit." "Not really. Change is hard," Tom said, lowering his voice. "But you have every right to be here to own your story." Just as Sarah was about to respond, a group of children darted by, giggling, the chaos of youth signaling joy. Lily squealed in delight, arms flailing. It was infectious. Sarah took a deep breath, allowing the laughter to warm her heart. "Look at her," Tom said, nodding toward Lily. "She is so happy." "Yeah, she is," Sarah replied, her smile softening. And for a moment, she forgot about Karen, about the past's clutches, feeling only the joy radiating from her daughter. In a bold moment, she walked over to the buffet table, determined to engage. As she reached for a dish of macaroni salad, she felt a hand squeeze her shoulder. It was another neighbor, Jessica, smiling widely. "Hey, nice to see you again. The food you brought last week was a hit." "Thanks. I appreciate that," Sarah said sheepishly, a smile tugging at her lips. One connection, one fragile thread strengthening her place in this newfound family. But before she could savor the moment, Karen's voice sliced through, now addressing the group with a pointed comment. Sarah's heart raced as Karen said, "It's nice to see some people making an effort." Her tone was sarcastic, eyes narrowing at Sarah. An icy wave washed over her. This was at the moment she had dreaded. But this time, she wouldn't let Karen drown her with words. "Effort," Sarah called back, her voice steady though her heart pounded. "It takes effort to find joy when the world keeps telling you you don't belong. But I'm learning to embrace it." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sarah felt a rush of warmth behind her. She glanced, seeing Tom in the corner of her eye, pride sparkling in his expression. "We all have our battles," another neighbor chimed in. "But it's about what you do next that counts." Karen's smirk faltered, and instead of retreating, Sarah took a step forward. Was this finally her moment to own who she was? Before she could consider the weight of the words she had just spoken, Karen's gaze flicked to the side, a flicker of something indecipherable crossing her face. Was it anger? Fear? Doubt? The air hung heavy, the quiet murmurs of the crowd enveloping Sarah as she held her breath. She stood taller, feeling the trembling edges of her old self begin to peel away. And then she noticed Lily, radiant in her innocence, ready to explore the world without fear. In that instant, Sarah realized she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for her daughter and the legacy she wanted to build. The moment was electric, as if everything had shifted. Anxiety, mixed with exhilaration, the thrill of taking a stand coursed through her veins. But just when she thought she'd caught her breath, she felt a twinge of unease creeping back in. Would Karen regroup, rallying her forces against Sarah once more? "Let us go get dessert, Lily," she said, turning away from the crowd, heart racing toward the dessert table. What sweetness awaited her there? As she walked, all eyes on her, she pondered, could she truly reshape her story? The answer lay just beyond the surface. In the midst of laughter and fleeting shadows, Sarah felt uncertain if the fire had extinguished, or was this merely the spark igniting a much larger blaze inside her? Sarah moved toward the dessert table, each step heavy with a mix of hope and apprehension. Her heart still raced from her confrontation with Karen, but the thought of Lily's delighted laughter tugged at her like a lifeline. She could almost taste the sweet confections waiting just ahead. "Look, Mama, cupcakes!" Lily exclaimed, practically vibrating with excitement. Her wide eyes sparkled as she reached for a colorful cupcake decorated with sprinkles that danced across the frosting. It was a moment of pure joy, something Sarah wanted to bottle up and save forever. "Go ahead, sweetie," Sarah said, nudging her daughter closer. Watching Lily's face light up was like a soothing balm over the raw ache in her chest. She couldn't remember the last time she felt so alive, so connected to something good. As they selected desserts, Sarah caught snippets of conversation around her. The neighbors, all chatting and laughing, felt like part of an intricate tapestry. Yet, in the corner of her mind, she could still hear Karen's barbed words as if they echoed off the candy jars. It was exhausting to keep her resolve strong. "Sarah," Jessica called out, her enthusiasm cutting through the fading anxiety. "Join us over here." Sarah's heart fluttered at the invitation. "Coming," she called back, taking a deep breath. She felt a surge of energy and turned toward her friend, who waved her over to a group gathered around a picnic table, laughter spilling into the air like the sweet scent of the desserts. As she approached, Sarah saw Karen talking animatedly again, but this time, it was with less authority, her words drenched in irritation. Some in the group cast glances at Sarah, their expressions a mix of curiosity and sympathy, almost as if they were holding their breath, waiting for the next round of tension. "Just ignore her," Tom whispered, leaning closer to Sarah. "You've got this." She held on to his words like a sacred promise and squared her shoulders. The warmth from her community buzzed around her, and she silently resolved to make this moment count, to show Lily what strength looked like. "Hey, isn't that a fancy cupcake?" Sarah said as she sidled up to the table, her voice playful, her spirit urging shyly at the back. She reached for one decorated with swirls of pastel frosting, and to her surprise, Karen turned and shot her a look half disgusted, half surprised. "Just trying to sugarcoat your bitterness?" Karen muttered, leaning closer, as if intending to be private but loud enough for all to hear. But instead of withering, Sarah inhaled deeply. "No bitterness here, Karen, just your usual compliments of sweetness." The words came with unexpected firmness, shocking even herself. The laughter at the table faltered for a brief moment, then burst forth anew, like fireworks in the night sky. Sarah felt a spark igniting within. Could this really be the start of something new, a shift in her own narrative? Lily nudged her, giggling, pointing at a cupcake smeared across her chin. "Mama, look." Fighting back her own smile, Sarah proceeded to wipe the icing from her daughter's face. "You're a mess," she chuckled, swiping her thumb under Lily's chin. But as quickly as warmth flooded back, doubt snuck in again, whispering, "What if it all crumbles?" She felt Karen's eyes on her, still heavy with judgment. Before she could spiral back into insecurity, A child's laughter caught her attention. A group of kids were dancing in the nearby grass, their joy wild and unhindered. A smile broke across Sarah's face at the sight. Maybe there was more joy in being true to herself than she realized in that moment. She made a decision. It was time to not just exist, but to flourish. She was done letting fear dictate her path. Today was a turning point. Let us take a picture, Tom suggested, pulling out his phone. This moment deserves to be remembered. Surrounded by friends, with Lily Bright beside her, Sarah felt the surge of anticipation bring a smile to her face. As they crowded together for the picture, she felt the quiet flutter of something profound inside her, igniting with every click of the camera. But just as they began to capture the moment, a loud crash broke through the laughter. Sarah turned to see Karen stumbling backward, having knocked over a tray of desserts. A murmur ran through the crowd. The breeze shifted, and Sarah's heart raced again. Was this the moment everything would fall apart? What would she do next? Would this moment bring her down, or would she rise again? The choice was just beyond her reach, waiting to be made. The sound of crashing treats reverberated through the air, slicing through the moment like a knife. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she watched Karen's face flush deeper than the crimson icing that now splattered the ground. A hush fell over the crowd, the vibrant energy replaced by an uncomfortable tension. For a heartbeat, all eyes were on Karen, who knelt, her hands sifting through the wreckage. She looked up, her expression a mix of embarrassment and rage, eyes darting towards Sarah. The spite that usually danced in those depths seemed to wane, replaced by something softer fear. Lily, oblivious to the adult drama, tugged at Sarah's sleeve. "Mama, are they going to clean it up?" Yes, honey," Sarah murmured, her instinct to shield her daughter kicking in. But watching Karen in that vulnerable position, a pang of empathy struck. After all, she had spent years feeling like a fragile vase, always on the verge of shattering. "I'm sorry, Karen. That looks really messy." Sarah's voice was steady, despite the trembling in her gut. Karen's lips tightened, then curled slightly, as if battling with her thoughts. For a moment, the tension broke. The unfairness of life, the struggle of motherhood, and the raw, human experience all echoed in the scattered desserts. "Help me," Karen snapped suddenly, her glance directed toward Sarah. "You could at least help clean this up instead of standing there like you're above it all." Everyone watched, breaths held, as Sarah hesitated, caught in the thrill of anger and compassion. She started, but Lily's small hand squeezed hers tightly. "Mama, please help. We can fix it. Just like the cupcakes." The innocence in her daughter's voice was enough. The laughter around them faded again as Sarah moved to kneel beside Karen. "Okay, let us do this together." It was a slow start, both women picking up the remnants of icing-smeared cupcakes, occasionally brushing against one another as they worked. Each chocolate crumb and confetti sprinkle felt like melted tension simmering down. Karen began, her voice softer, almost hesitant. "I didn't mean to act like that. It's been a rough week." "I get it," Sarah replied, her heart softening. "Honestly, I've had my fair share of those days too." Shock darted through Karen's eyes, and for a moment, the air between them crackled with an unexpected understanding. "Really?" Karen asked, disbelief lacing her voice. "Yeah, we all have our struggles, don't we? I feel like I'm constantly juggling to just keep everything together." The corners of Karen's mouth twitched, as though she was tasting a new concoction of emotions, sweetened by vulnerability and a hint of regret. "As if life were a picnic," Karen murmured, wiping frosting from her fingers. "Exactly. And sometimes, the picnic blanket gets yanked from under you." With a chuckle that felt almost foreign, Karen turned back to her pile of desserts. "Sorry for being a bit of a cupcake dictator." They shared a glance, and something unspoken shifted. The gentle laughter of children echoed around them, and for the first time, their circle felt united rather than divided. Suddenly, the crowd erupted into noise again, cheers rallying for the impromptu trickle of sweetness that had turned the awkwardness into bonding. "We did it. Now we can make another batch." Lily beamed as she joined them, scooping icing off the grass and giggling. In that moment, as they stood together under the setting sun, Sarah could feel change fluttering in the air. She had taken a step she thought was impossible, finding common ground with someone she thought was her adversary. Yet, Just as Sarah felt a surge of triumph wash over her, a shout broke through the jubilant atmosphere, a child's voice shouting that someone was missing. "Where's Benny?" Panic flared as parents began searching the open yard. Sarah's heart sank. Who was Benny, and where could he be? The shadow of dread loomed, and before Sarah had a chance to dwell on her own fear, she instinctively squeezed Lily's hand tightly. What if this moment of clarity turned into a search for someone lost? Would she be as brave this time when the stakes were even higher? Lily's little fingers intertwined with Sarah's like a lifeline, grounding her in the chaos that erupted around them. A mother's instinct kicked in, fueling a frantic fire in her chest. "Benny," she called into the crowd, but her voice felt weak, almost swallowed by the commotion. Around them, parents broke away from their conversations, scanning the yard with eyes wide and frantic. Shouts mingled with cries of worry as they rallied together. Their laughter faded like a distant memory. Sarah's heart raced, each beat echoing a new fear. Where could he be? She thought, her mind flooded with dark images, the enormity of loss looming over her. Lily tugged at her hand again, her innocent face creased with worry. "Mama, what if he is hurt? What if he is scared?" Sarah knelt down, looking her daughter in the eye. "Honey, I'm sure he is okay. Let us just help find him." She hoped her words would carry enough strength for both of them. Nervously, she started to push through the scattering crowd, her breath shallow and quick. Maybe he wandered off to look for the petting zoo. A voice suggested. Another chimed in. He was playing near the slide, right? But although those voices offered new avenues of searching, dread twisted deeper in Sarah's gut. The group jogged to the playground, a vibrant swirl of color under the setting sun, but Benny wasn't there. Sarah's desperation bubbled over. "Benny," she shouted again. The sound felt hollow, swallowed up by the rising tide of panic. As they divided into smaller search parties, Sarah felt a strange sensation wash over her. The camaraderie felt different, almost like powerful threads tying strangers together in fear for a child none of them knew. They ran through the width of the yard, calling out Benny's name. But the only responses were distant echoes fading into whispers. Sarah's heart sank deeper. Just then, she noticed Karen stepping away from the group, her eyes filled with purpose. It dawned on Sarah that they had begun this evening as hesitant allies in a baking disaster. But now, united in worry, change was happening again. The edges of their rivalry had blurred, transforming them into partners for a greater cause. "Let us split up," Karen suggested, her voice steady despite the worry lining her forehead. "I'll take my side. You take yours." "Okay," Sarah agreed, touched by Karen's initiative, but still shaken. "Lily, stay close to me, all right?" As they moved deeper into the thicket of trees bordering the yard, shadows danced around them, and every whisper of wind felt ominous. The tall blades of grass swayed, hiding possibilities Sarah was desperate to avoid. "Do you think he found something cool?" Lily mused, trying to ease the tension gnawing at her. "Maybe," Sarah said softly, forcing a smile. "But we really need to find him first." Just then, from a distance, a small, joyful laugh caught Sarah's attention. It was innocent and carefree, like a breath of fresh air. "Did you hear that?" she asked Lily urgently, straining to listen. Before they could step forward, a figure bounded toward them, golden hair shining brightly in the fading light. Benny appeared, a little hero, triumphant with a stick in hand and the biggest grin on his face. Look, I found a giant caterpillar." Relief flooded through Sarah, almost bringing her to her knees as she scooped him up into her arms. "Oh, thank goodness. We were so worried." Her heartbeat slowed, each pulse radiating the relief of being whole again. But as she looked past Benny, she noticed Karen standing at the edge of the trees, her face pale and frozen in surprise. It was as if the overwhelming joy had become too much to bear, a stark contrast to the raw worry that had filled the air moments before. "Isn't he adorable?" Sarah said, laughing through the remnants of fear, but the silence lingered, heavy with unspoken words. What was happening? Why was Karen looking away? A sudden realization struck Sarah. Despite this relief, the shadows of their past encounters were not just disappearing. They were shifted, leaving another weight unaddressed. The tension of the past still loomed large between them, and the revelations felt tangled as they stood together at the crossroad of change. With Benny giggling in her arms and a lightness creeping back into the gathering crowd, Sarah felt a question rise. Could this accidental adventure heal their connection? Or was there something else lurking in the fabric of their newfound understanding that still needed to be untangled? "Benny, you gave us quite the scare," Sarah said, her voice revealing a mix of relief and lingering anxiety. She pulled him closer, feeling the warmth of his small body against her. Time seemed to stand still as the joyful noise of the party resumed, and life returned to the yard. But beneath the surface, an invisible tension clung to the air, thick and unsettling. Karen stepped closer, still frozen in her uncertain gaze. She stammered, glancing away, clearly struggling with the emotions washing over her. "I'm glad he is okay," Sarah nodded, but something in Karen's tone caught her attention. It felt strained, almost rehearsed. "Thanks for helping to look for him," she said cautiously. "I know things have been rocky between us." Yeah," Karen replied as her posture sagged slightly. "I get it. I mean, we've had our differences." Her eyes flicked back to Benny, who was now fascinated with the caterpillar. "But it's so nice to see him happy." "Yes, it is," Sarah said quietly. She saw in Karen's expression the weight of the unspoken, and it pained her to think how their history could cast such a shadow on this moment. Lily, oblivious to the cracks forming between the adults, tugged on Sarah's shirt. "Mama, can we go to the petting zoo now?" Benny's face lit up at the suggestion. "Can we, please? I want to pet the fuzzy goats." "All right," Sarah agreed, hoping a distraction would help dissolve the tension. "Let us go find those goats." As they headed toward the petting zoo area, Benny dashed ahead, his excitement infectious. Sarah felt herself relax into the brightness of his laughter, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Karen. As they reached the petting zoo, their eyes met again. "Why can't we just put this behind us?" Sarah heard herself voice, surprising even herself. "I don't want to feel like this anymore." The raw honesty of her words hung thick in the air. Karen dropped her gaze, shifting her weight from one foot to the other, the words trapped in her throat. "I don't know how to fix everything," she eventually said. "It feels bigger than just us." "Sometimes, it takes stepping into a mess to clean it up," Sarah replied softly, needing Karen to understand how desperately she wanted a different dynamic, something healed and real. Just then, a loud bang echoed, and both women turned to see a group of children tumbling over each other, startled by a loud crash from an art station set up nearby. The tents flapped wildly in the wind, panic sparking anew in the eyes around them. Someone shouted, "Call security," and the laughter of the evening turned into frantic cries once more. Benny squeezed Sarah's leg, confused. "Mama, is everything okay?" "Stay close," Sarah said, her heart racing again. But she felt the weight of Karen beside her in that moment, as if their mutual instinct had aligned. Murmurs of worry rippled through the crowd. Parents rushed toward the commotion, a collective fear tightening like a chain around the gathering. Sarah and Karen instinctively took a few steps forward, forming an unspoken bond that seemed fragile yet necessary. "What do we do?" Karen's voice trembled slightly. "Let us just make sure the kids are safe," Sarah replied, her pulse racing as they inched closer to the scene, drawn into another maelstrom. Together, this unlikely duo streamed into the chaos, hands ready to comfort, eyes scanning for any signs of trouble. In that instant, the world outside slipped away. It was just them, the children, and the decision to confront this uncertain tide together. Behind the tension that had shadowed their past, hope flickered. Maybe this could be the start of something new. As Sarah looked at Karen, a quiet understanding passed between them. But as the chaos unfolded, they both knew that this immediate crisis could either break them further apart or forge a bold new connection. With the sudden uproar of the party crashing down, a question lingered in Sarah's heart. Would they emerge united, or would the storm of the past tear them back into silence? In the midst of the sudden chaos, Sarah's heart raced. Children were crying, their small faces etched with confusion. The air buzzed with alarm, the laughter from earlier now a distant memory. She scanned the scene, looking for anything that could help them restore some calm. Her instinct as a mother kicked in fiercely, and she reached for Benny's hand. "Stick close to me, sweetheart," she whispered, squeezing his little fingers. Karen mirrored Sarah's movements, shifting closer to a group of children who had fallen, her hands outstretched as though they could somehow catch the fear swirling around them. "Are you okay?" she asked a pair of shocked siblings, who nodded vigorously but seemed unsure whether to cry or laugh at I in the distance. Parents were forming clusters, their faces drawn, eyes darting. A few had already begun ushering their kids away from the scene, glancing nervously at the fading light of dusk. The tent, previously bright and inviting, had become a canopy for worry. "Let us help them to safety," Sarah suggested, her voice steady despite the chaos. She felt a surge of purpose, and it seemed to ignite a spark in Karen. Together, they swept into the scattering crowd, banishing the silence that lingered in their past. Lily tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mama, I'm scared." Sarah knelt down close to her daughter, brushing a strand of hair from her eyes. "I know, honey, but we're here, and we're going to be okay. Just focus on me." With each child they helped, each tentative laugh shared over soothing words, Sarah felt the tension around her loosen slightly. Karen was beside her, their movements synchronized as they guided children away from the danger. There was something magical about working as a team, even amidst fear. "Why don't we check on that group over there?" Karen gestured toward some kids huddled by the petting zoo fence, clinging to safety around the sheep and goats. They moved quickly, stepping over scattered craft supplies, the remnants of a sudden storm. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were more than just two people trying to corral a group of frightened kids. They were rewriting a narrative that had loomed over them for too long. As they approached the fence, a little boy burst into tears, pointing at a goat that had knocked over a display sign. It felt like it held some sort of symbolic echo of their own misunderstandings. Benny knelt beside the boy, his small hand patting the goat softly. "It's okay. The goat just wanted to play." The boy's crying paused as he watched Benny's reassuring movements. Slowly, Sarah felt the weight of her heart lift as she noticed a flicker of a smile forming on the boy's face. Karen nudged Sarah softly, pointing to Benny, who was now coaxing the other children to join him in petting the goat. "Look at him," Karen breathed. "He is such a natural." For a moment, Sarah felt a warmth spreading between them, a tiny fracture in their shared history, a hopeful moment shining through. Was it possible they were finding a new rhythm? Before Sarah could answer herself, a thunderclap of laughter erupted from nearby. Kids began to gather around Benny, entranced by the goat's antics. The tension seemed to dissipate, replaced by a simple joy that surged through the yard. It was almost surreal how quickly panic had turned into laughter. But just as the evening air thickened with relief, the unmistakable sound of shouts from further away rippled through the crowd again, echoing ominously. "What was that?" Sarah asked, exchanging a worried glance with Karen. As the chaos swelled back to life, they both knew they couldn't ignore it. "Let us check it out," Karen said, her expression serious again. But as they prepared to delve into the uncertainty once more, a question whirled in Sarah's mind. Would they face this new wave strengthened by their moments of connection, or would the echoes of their past still hold them hostage? The tension in the air was palpable as Sarah and Karen moved toward the source of the shouting. Hearts racing, they pushed through clusters of panicked parents and children, propelled by the urgency of the situation. Each shout pulled them in deeper, a magnetic force anchoring them closer to an uncharted territory of their relationship. As they reached the epicenter where the sounds originated, a crowd of parents loomed, their anxious faces reflecting confusion. "What is happening?" Sarah demanded, her voice assertive amidst the rising chaos. "It's that kid, Benny. He climbed the fence." A voice called back from the crowd. A wave of adrenaline coursed through Sarah as she instinctively turned to Karen. "Oh no, he can't be up there." They pushed through the commotion, their previous differences faded into the backdrop of the moment, camaraderie blossoming between them like a fragile flower in spring. The sight that unfolded before them was one of mixed fear and exhilaration. Benny stood on the top of the fence, giggling as he prepared to jump into the immediate chaos below the goat mere feet away, bleating playfully. Sarah's heart dropped. "Benny, get down," she shouted, fear threading through each syllable. "Hang on, I got this," Karen interjected. There's a tone of determination in her voice that surged with power. "Wait." Sarah fought against the instinct to panic. In that heartbeat, amidst the swirl of frantic thoughts, Sarah heard the faint sound of laughter, a delicate reminder of the childlike spirit Benny embodied. It clicked then. He was just being a kid, full of innocent audacity. "Benny," Karen yelled, moving forward as though to steady the storm brewing in the air. "You're amazing up there, but let us get down safely, okay?" With those simple words, the world shifted. Benny's laughter rang out again, this time brighter, as he considered his friends below. "Okay." Slowly, guided by the trust he held in both women, he began to climb down, each careful step echoing choices that had led to this moment. The crowd held its breath, watching and waiting, tension crackling in the fading light, until finally, Benny's feet touched the ground, relief flooding the air like a soft summer rain. The moment felt electric. A collective front had overcome a shared fear. Sarah knelt down, scooping Benny up into her arms, grateful tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "Oh my goodness, I was so scared," she exclaimed as he nestled against her, grounding her heart again. Just then, Karen stepped closer, her hands resting gently on her hips. "You need to be careful, Benny. You scared us all," she said softly, a hint of weariness but a glimmer of warmth in her tone. "I was just playing," he replied, innocence in his wide eyes shining brighter than the fading sun. The truth packed a punch, leaving both women feeling vulnerable yet invigorated. Watching this exchange, Sarah's heart swelled with hope. Maybe this was the day they would stitch together the fabric of their relationship, bit by bit. "Benny," she began, summoning courage, "you gave us quite the adventure today. But we need you safe, okay?" "Okay, Mama," he chirped. As laughter broke through the lingering tension, Karen caught Sarah's eye, signaling an unspoken understanding blossoming between them. "He has got some serious guts, huh?" she chuckled, breaking the ice that had hovered for so long. "Yeah," Sarah replied, her smile radiating warmth. "But it's a reminder that sometimes it's okay to fall, as long as there's someone there to catch you, right?" "Exactly," Karen agreed, her tone carrying a sincerity Sarah hadn't felt before. For the first time, the distance shrank between them, a bridge forged through empathy and shared experience. The sounds around them started to soften, a celebration of families gathering once more, laughter threading their way back into the air. It felt different now, more like a shared experience rather than an isolated battle. And as if on cue, Sarah felt Benny's small hand slip into hers, a connection binding them all, lingering warmth curling at the edges of her heart. Together, they moved toward the crowd. Each step blurred the lines separating them, and as they approached the picnic table where families resumed their joyous celebrations, Sarah's heart settled knowing they had weathered yet another storm. "Ready for cupcakes?" she asked, ruffling Benny's hair. "I want to," he squealed, laughter bubbling in the air as the moment spread like ripples on water, bringing joy and fullness back into the crowd. As the trio made their way back to the dessert table, Sarah felt the stirring of hope and possibility. Each choice, every step they took, had brought her closer to the community around them and to a newfound understanding of herself. "Hey, can I get a cupcake too?" Karen asked, a victorious smile breaking across her face as she joined them. Their laughter mingled under the star-studded sky, and for the first time, Sarah felt the weight of their shared history lift, a warm breeze carrying away the shadows, bringing forth the light of connection and new beginnings. Everything had changed, and yet nothing felt more right. In that moment, everything forged in vulnerability shifted into strength, and unbreakable bonds were being created as they embraced the joy of their newfound community. The night seemed like a promise, a pledge that they could rise together through every thick and thin, braving every storm, and that love, laughter, and friendship could grow even amidst the chaos. So intertwined and beautifully human, Sarah knew with certainty. She was ready to face whatever came next, a heart filled with resilience, hope, and surrounded by the arms of community. And just like that, the piece of life she had so desperately fought for glimmered before her, alive and vibrant, a journey only just beginning. Now, if you've enjoyed this incredible journey and want to see what happens next, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss more exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. I am dying to hear what you think. And don't wait, not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see these transformations. Let us keep this community growing, and together, we can uplift each other.